Hey, what's up, guys? It's Uncle Ed, and here we are, man, on this Monday. Lots to talk about, and I'm here with a special guest. This guy right here, Jacob Vance of Compass here in San Francisco, Compass Real Estate. We're going to chop it up. I'll go ahead and just start out really quickly. Today, Monday, what is it, the 19th? We have a lot of news going on. So the U.S. got downgraded, unfortunately, and so we're seeing big changes when it comes to the 10-year Treasury and the 30-year Treasury bills. What does that all mean in English? That means rates are going up today. Why? Because the U.S. credit rating got downgraded. You know, something very interesting as to the why. Why is this happening, right? It's because our debt to GDP is 123%, meaning that our debt is way surpasses what we're actually producing, the gross domestic product. That is not a good thing, obviously. But you guys know, right? Everything's changing and it changes so quickly. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The reality is that the last time this happened, literally the next day, we bounced back. So we shall see what happens on Tuesday. But if you are in a situation where you're literally in contract and you haven't locked in your rate, I suggest you do that now, because we just don't know, and you don't want to play market timer, because we all know the saying is, those who time get spanked. You don't want to get spanked, especially when it comes to your interest rate, especially out here, right, where loan amounts are very high. Any little change in interest rate can mean a big change in your monthly payment. Another interesting thing too is that China is starting to divest themselves of U.S. treasuries, and I think a lot of it is because of this trade war, of course, right? But interestingly enough, guess who's coming up as far as buying more U.S. treasuries, and that is the U.K. As you all know, we just penned a deal with them. So that's kind of what's going on. I think a lot of this is political. So there's a lot of room for pretty quick change. So we don't know what this is going to do long term. You know, the CPI came in lower than expected. I was a little bit surprised, where we saw actually inflation going down from 4.3, which is what we thought it was going to be, to 4.2. We also created more jobs than we thought. 177,000 versus 133,000 that we had expected. So the economy is actually stronger than we even thought. You know, prices are coming down. I mean, I'm seeing it. At least, you know, I'm not paying $10 for eggs anymore, right? So we are starting to see it. Now, the other side of this is, okay, so what impact are the tariffs having? As we all know, we have a 90-day moratorium. However, I think the next month's numbers, because, by the way, in the numbers game, we are always looking 30 days behind. So we're reading reports of what already happened. So when we say that inflation came down to that 4.2%, as opposed to what we thought would be 4.3, that's based on last month's numbers. So we don't know if the tariff hikes did actually have an impact on our wallets yet until the new report comes out. All right, so that said, I'm going to say we're between 6.375 and 6.875 is about where the rates are at, depending on your loan amount, depending on your credit scores. Make sure those scores are 740 and above in order to be really nice and healthy. But all those things matter as well. The type of property you're buying, condos versus single family, you know, how much money you're putting down. There's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. It's not just so simple as an interest rate and that's it. By the way, on average, you have 25 different interest rate options. Did you know that? And if you don't, give me a call and I'll explain it further. But without further ado, we have Jacob Vance. Tell us what's going on, man. Thank you, by the way, for showing up, for having a little coffee this morning, coffee talk. What's going on in real estate? Because I hear there's a lot more buyers. I hear there's more inventory, but you're the pro, man. Tell us.
Yeah, so good morning, guys. It's a beautiful Monday here in San Francisco. I just want to say, as Ed said, you know, the buyers are there and the sellers are definitely there. The competition is definitely there. Right now, we're definitely seeing a big uptick in the buyer market right now. As I said, with the inventory being there, we have right now hundreds of properties here in San Francisco on the market.
It's good to hear.
Last week, we had 391 properties that were currently holding an open house that week.
That many?
Yes.
Whoa. Okay, guys, you guys remember when it was crickets? Even the crickets had left town. So to hear this number is really amazing. Why do you think this is happening? Why do you think buyers are coming out in spite of the fact that rates are kind of the same, really?
You know, it kind of boils down to almost the famous saying that everyone knows, You marry the home, you date the rate.
Yeah.
What's happening right now is, though these rates are higher than as expected at this point in time, people are starting to realize that this is the perfect time to buy. I have a property that just went into contract today.
Nice, congrats.
Thank you. And I had one that went into contract last week. And we probably had over 200 parties of people over the span of 2 weeks come into my open house. And generally, I like to see when you're looking for a home in the first time home buyer range, I generally put that around 1.4 to 1.8. It's kind of the first home buyer kind of price range.
So 1.4 million to 1.8 million. For those of you who are in Milwaukee, where the price of your homes are down payments, just so you kind of get a little context. Yeah. This is for first time home buyers, by the way.
Exactly.
1.4 to 1.8, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that here in California, that's where it's at.
Nuts. Yeah.
But what happens is when you have a home on the market that's in that kind of range, you're going to see a ton of competition. I'm telling you, I have seen in one weekend 400 parties come into an open house. And that was only insane. A month and a half ago.
Yeah, that's Disneyland, basically.
Yeah, and that was for a home that was listed for 1.6 in Dublin.
1.6 million in Dublin, California, which is considered the East Bay, by the way.
Yes.
It's on the other side. It's east of San Francisco.
Exactly.
Wow.
But then when you have a home that starts getting above the $2 million range, that's when you start going to catering to a different group of
demographic.
Buyers.
Yeah.
And that's when you're looking for quality over quantity. But when you have a beautiful home and when it shows well, you're going to have competition. I had 4 offers come in the span of 24 hours for this home. I had someone submitting an offer for me at 1:38 a.m.
At 1:38 a.m. Clearly
said,
they're not sleeping.
Exactly. They said, we can't miss out on this. This is a great opportunity.
That's amazing.
And what happened was, as it goes, a bidding war starts to happen.
Yeah. Now let's talk about that for a second, because I remember the days of when homes were listed, like 99% of them were listed way below what they really were going to go for because they wanted the traffic. And it was, to me, it kind of like left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. Like, why are you pricing it way low when we know for a fact that house is nowhere near going to go for that amount? What are we looking at now? Is that still happening, or are we having more of honest pricing right off the bat?
So it really depends on your area. What I will say is in San Francisco, we still have that a lot. We have people under listing for $500,000-$600,000 because they want to say that they got 30 offers. They want to say that they're negotiating and, oh my gosh, look, we sold this high over asking.
Right.
And that's tough because when you're looking at homes in the East Bay, we're pricing right. We're doing all the work up front, we're pricing them right, and we're getting good, clear competition. I would rather see 3 offers priced at the right price than to be sifting through 30 offers and making 30 different calls to different agents,
So why is that, Jacob? Why the difference in that kind of culture, I guess, let's just call it, the difference in approach between San Francisco and the East Bay?
I would say that, when you get into a city like San Francisco and you compare it to maybe the Tri-Valley, and the Tri-Valley makes up Pleasanton, Dublin, and Livermore. There's a lot of competition out here. Everyone wants to be the #1 agent. Everyone wants to be looked at as, oh my gosh, that's the guy that just got 30 offers and he's pending for $600,000 over asking. And what it is too is there's a lot of young people in real estate out here. Whereas when you move into the East Bay,
they're a little older, right?
Yeah. You have to think my business partner is, she just turned 63.
Wow, yeah, she's been doing it forever.
Exactly. Yeah. But what happens is when you've been in the industry for that long, you've kind of made it so that your business is going to be someone that represents your demographic. We're seeing such a high uptake of young urban professionals moving to the city, and that's who's taking over. But then when you look at the suburbs, that's going to be, the empty nesters, the people raising a family. And that's why the demographic of my business partner works so well in the East Bay.
That makes sense.
Because, all her friends are people her age that have owned for 30 plus years.
They've been in that house forever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you recommend for the buyers who are watching, what do you recommend be their approach today, now, to buying a home?
I think one of the most important things is you need to work with an awesome lender, an awesome mortgage broker. You need to, if you're even just starting your search, the most beneficial thing you can do is get pre-approved, because that's going to be something that needs to be done when you're submitting an offer anyways.
Yeah, know your numbers. Yeah.
But know your numbers. Know how much you can afford. Know how much you're looking for. And then really talk to a local expert, because, for example, like I said, it's going to be different in every city.
Yeah.
I have some buyers right now that were technically new buyers. We've been searching for 8 months now, but when they were new, they were looking at homes. They're like, oh my gosh, this home is perfect. And I go, but here's the thing. That home's going to sell for $600,000 over what it's listed for. And I remember this one home because it's the first home they wanted to look at when we started their search. It sold for 1.85 and it was listed for 1.250. And so working with a really good local expert, because if you're not working with a local expert, you're not going to know how the market trends are.
You don't know how to negotiate up or down. You have no idea, right? You have to set your expectations. And, this is the reason why the saying is numbers don't lie. You got to know your numbers up front. You don't want to fall in love with something that you can't get, right? You want to know your numbers so that way you stay within that. And once you know your numbers, then you go out all out, with Jacob looking for properties that that you can close on. Because let's say he does find a property for you, and we know that you're approved for 1.5, but it's listed at 1.4, and he says, yeah, you know what, I think we can still get it at 1.5, this particular property, then you have a chance of winning. But if not, guess what? You're just going to basically be like an Uber driver. You're going to be driving all over the place looking at homes that you don't even know if you can close on, and you don't even know if they're really going to sell for that amount because you're not the expert, right? How do people get a hold of you, Jacob?
You can call me. My phone number is everywhere you can find me is my phone number and my email, and I strive on being available at any hour of the day.
Yeah, give them your phone number.
Yeah, 925-819-6167. You can call, you can text. My email is just my first and last name with a dot in the middle. It's going to be jacob.vance, that's VANCE, @compass.com. I'm available at any time to answer any questions for anyone.
Yep, and as you can see, he's very knowledgeable, very approachable, and this guy really knows the market. So give him a call today. Get yourself in a home, because if not, guess what? You're paying Uncle Sam way too much money, and you're not building anything. You're not building legacy wealth. You're building it for your landlord. So it's time to fire your landlord. Let's do it together. Have a great day.